Hi, my name is Adam Thomas, and I'm the Director of Operations here at the Louisville Orchestra. And I'm here with the fabulous one and only Principal Pops Conductor of the Louisville Orchestra, Bob Bernhardt. Thanks for being with me today.
Adam, and thanks for that introduction, just as I asked you to say it. Thank you.
You know, I have the checks in the mail.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're here today
Anyways,
to talk. We're here today to talk about the Fright Night concert, which is our opening Pops concert at the Kentucky Center for the Arts, Whitney Hall, on Saturday, October 21st at 7:30 p.m. So, Bob, tell us, what is Fright Night?
well, it's actually just having to look at me. That's as scary as it gets. But also, it was our idea, and it was actually yours and mine, that we try to put together a program of scary movie music, some of our favorite film music that is intended to well, that's another thing we're going to talk about. What is scary? But the what this all of this music either will send people directly to the first moment they watch these films in their lives, or if they don't know it very well, they will get a visceral reaction to the music while sitting in the hall, and just putting it out there at the front. This is for us and for me. It really is about the highest level of Pops concert, the kind I love the most, and that's the one when the Louisville Orchestra itself is the star, and their excellence and virtuosity will be front and center, and it's going to be a lot of fun, maybe scary fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's such a great program. So, what makes something fit well on a Spooky Pops program? What makes a good spooky film score?
I'll tell you what I think, and I'd love to hear what you think. But for me, I was getting ready for this, I was trying to think, what is there a single element that connects all of the music that we're doing? And I think it's suspense. I think it's the aspect of what Hitchcock did so beautifully, which was to set you up time and time again for something to happen, but it didn't happen, and then it didn't happen, and then it does. You know, that you're just being set up for that, and that's, we'll get into it, but that, of course, is the essence of Jaws. So many things don't happen, but when they do, holy moly, it's just at you. And so many times the music reflects that suspense or that tension, and sometimes it's just eerie. The music is eerie, and I mean, we're going to talk about some of them specifically, but and there are a couple on here, very selfishly, that are on here because of my own personal experience hiding under a chair in a movie theater. So onward we go. So
And
maybe
that's
suspense.
and that's what we want the audience to do, is we want them to get spooked at this show. It should be totally spooky fun the whole time.
Yeah, it's there's really, I mean, we're not, I mean, it is a family show. I mean, kids will enjoy this too. There's nothing totally outrageous about it, but I mean, you were going to maybe mention what first, but may I? The scariest moment,
Please.
the scariest movie I have ever seen in my life, and the scariest moment I have ever spent in a movie theater, moments, 2 hours in a movie theater, was watching the premiere of Alien on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles with a
Amazing.
full house. Yeah. I was with Jenny, my ex, and the moment of the alien emerging, she along with about 30 people left the hall and never came back. They left the theater, never came back. During the rest of it, there were screams. A couple people fainted. I mean, I've never experienced anything as viscerally scary as Alien. So for this concert, trying to face my fears, we have put James Horner's score, but it's actually the second film, Aliens, in which there's a rescue of a young girl that tries to take place. But it's just creepy. It's absolutely creepy music, and it's not particularly, it's not easy listening. It's just creepy, scary. And if you know the movie, it'll kind of make you look around you and hope you're safe while you're listening to it.
That's what a great score can do, is it can evoke the scenes in the movie that you're so familiar with. It can fill you with that sense of terror. And I think a lot of the things on this program will do that. So we have quite a variety on the first half, from the oldest scores to some very new ones. And I think one of the more old school ones that's worth mentioning, truly one of the most iconic, even if you haven't seen the movie, when you hear those strings screeching, you know that it's the score from Psycho. Tell us about Psycho.
Again, this is, of course, Hitchcock, and the composer is Bernard Herrmann. And Hitchcock and Herrmann collaborated for many of the most important Hitchcock films. I also have another Herrmann piece on this first half. For this film, Bernard Herrmann chose a string orchestra, just your typical string orchestra: first, seconds, violas, cellos, basses. And from the outset, the music is turbulent. It's troubled. Not nuts, but you know that there's something going on that is odd and not normal. And then the second movement of this suite is called The Murder. Very direct, and it's set up. It's not direct in it. It has a little opening section, and then it fades to nothing. There's a breath, and then you hear the screams from the strings. And as we know, Hitchcock had planned every shot, every moment of that shower scene. Maybe I don't remember how many different angles. There are dozens and dozens. Yeah. And the music is just absolutely as terrifying as what's on the screen. It's one of those perfect moments in which music and film align in horrific and beautiful partnership. So,
And I've never heard it performed live where the audience didn't viscerally respond. They know what that moment is. They've heard the music. It's been used both seriously and in parody so many times since then, but nothing compares to the actual, moment in the film when it happens.
that's true. And that in the suite, as I said, it's set up by the most quiet and just still moment, and then suddenly it's not.
Well, you're opening the performance with a score selection that's particularly special to me. Growing up in the early 90s, being born in the late 80s, when I think of spooky film music, I immediately go to the great composer Danny Elfman. Of course, earlier in the week, before the Fright Night performance, where the Louisville Orchestra is performing the score to The Nightmare Before Christmas, super Halloween appropriate. But you've picked one for this concert that has a lot of meaning for me, which I'm happy to talk about. But first, tell us why you chose to open the concert with Danny Elfman's theme from the 1989 Tim Burton film, Batman.
Well, I just think it's first of all one of my favorite scores. I think, and it was one of Danny Elfman's first. I think had to be
Mhm.
because it's so long.
Yeah.
He just found this sweet spot with the character, and also for me, at the same time that this movie came out, I I think it was almost the same time that I conducted for the very first time Mattister Mahler of Hindemith. Now it's a weird setup for this, but that five note ya da da ya da, that's actually the very beginning of Mattister Mahler. The same different key, but the same five in a completely different setting, harmonic setting. But that Mattister Mahler is among the most serious. And I mean, if you look at the Eisenheim altarpiece, for which it is, I mean, I'm going way far afield here, but there was the Grunewald altarpiece that was painted in early 1500s, and uh, there are gruesome images of the crucifixion and the temptation of Saint Anthony on it, um, that are reflected in this music. And so when Batman came out and I heard this, and I'm thinking, I guess I didn't even connect it then, but I just think he hit this amazing, um, uh, ominous, ominous theme that becomes the germ of it all. And we're doing that section, and then we're doing a finale, which takes that theme still a step further. And please tell me what your story.
Well, so I just think, speaking of the piece in general, I think that he captures the essence of the character in that he is a heroic character, but so dark and so brooding, and with the intent of striking fear in the hearts of criminals. So it's, to me, a dark reflection of what I consider to be the other equally iconic superhero theme, which is John Williams' Superman theme, which is bright and obviously heroic and optimistic. This is the opposite of that, while still retaining the heroism. It's dark and it's reflective, and I think it's so. I don't think any other composer, as great as they all are, has ever quite captured the Batman character the way that this theme does. And so for me, growing up in the '90s, those films were out there. Batman and Batman Returns. They were a little old for me when I was 4 or 5 years old in the early
Yeah,
'90s. But that was, yeah. But that was when Batman the Animated Series came out, which also used Danny Elfman's theme for its intro. So my first memories of Batman are of that theme. That's also likely the first time I ever heard a true orchestral score, because that cartoon had a full orchestra score for every 22-minute cartoon. And
it's
so
so
that's,
it's so interesting generationally, because that was your introduction, and of course for me it was Warner Brothers
yeah,
in the 50s when I was that age. It was
yeah.
through animation that we heard our first orchestra. But your point is so well taken. It's hero anti-hero, and John's theme for Superman, da 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 da, yep, it's all uplifting. It's all going forward, and this goes ya da da da, and it descends. It's just, I think you're spot on, Adam. Spot on.
It's gorgeous
Yeah.
music. Well, that's a great segue into discussing that the second half of our program has a pretty common theme, besides the fact that it's all Halloween appropriate film music. But the second half features the music of someone that I know you admire, and someone that I have looked up to musically. I've been a musician for 25 years, and I think the reason that I've stayed with it all this time is because of that man right there, John Williams, and his music. And I know you have a lot of admiration for him as well.
He's my hero, you bet. And we decided. Well, actually, you set me loose. We talked about movies and stuff, and then I put together a program, and I sent it to you, and I said, I don't know how this is going to work, but the entire second half is all music by John Williams. And we looked at each other and we said, I think this is going to be okay. And the reason is, with the enormous body of his work, which continues at the age of 91 and a half, that there is an extraordinary amount of music that is scary, that is suspenseful, that is put you on the edge of your seat. And some of it in a campy and fun way, like The Devil's Dance from Witches of Eastwood, which I guess we'll talk about, which is kind of, it's faux horror kind of, but it's fun. And then as the Harry Potter movies get darker, some of that music is excruciatingly tense, to me anyway. And Jurassic Park itself, the first film, there's a lot of suspense in the music, but the themes that we all know from Jurassic Park are heroic. That music is when the movie came out, I remember John saying, I thought I wrote a pretty good score, but if you go to the movie, you won't hear it because people are screaming and the animals are running and it's all loud over it, But when I heard the soundtrack, I said, some of this is very profound.
Beautiful.
But for this concert, we chose the sequel, which is The Lost World, because it's tribal, it's primitive music. It is almost a throwback to this Max Steiner's King Kong, where it's viscerally percussive and in your face scary. So that's why we're starting the second half with The Lost World by John Williams.
I think it's one of his most underrated, I like to call them hidden gems. We all know his Star Wars, we all know Indiana Jones, but things like The Lost World, and one that you mentioned, The Witches of Eastwick, which is just like comedic, but still spooky. I think it's the closest his music ever sounds to a Danny Elfman or a Hans Zimmer type score, but it still retains that John Williams identity. So tell us about Witches of Eastwick.
Well, it has, it's the sound effects, the percussion that's used in it, and I think it's 6/8. Usually, Devil's music is a triple. It's like Dance Macabre or the Sorcerer's Apprentice. All got it's the triple meter, and this has also the violin is not scordatura, meaning that it's not retuned as it is, I think, in the Dance Macabre or in the Apprentice it is, but in this case there's a devil's fiddle that's being played in The Witches of Eastwick as well. The movie is campy itself. I remember seeing it, and there were frightening moments in it, but it was actually just it was fun, a romp, in a lot of ways. And so is this music, but it has it's in a minor key, and it's a dance, and it's a devil's dance, and it's a virtuoso playing for the orchestra, and I think the audience is good. It's a delight. If you haven't heard it in years, or maybe never heard it, you're going to love it.
Yeah. It's one of those films that I actually discovered because I was a fan of John Williams, and I'd never heard of the film, but I found this music and it was so fun. So I had to go to the film. And of course it's so rewarding. It's so funny and a little spooky. Great performances from Cher and Susan Sarandon, Michelle Pfeiffer, and of course, who better to play the devil than Jack Nicholson? We've got him.
There is Johnny. Different movie.
Yeah, different one for sure. Well, I don't think we can talk about John Williams and spooky music without talking about, probably the other great horror film score, if you consider Jaws a horror film, but it's certainly a horror film score, even if you would consider the film an adventure film, and that's Jaws.
Right.
It's such a simple two-note theme that's so like unassuming, just bum bum. Barely even a theme, if you could call it that. But I think that the way he uses it in the film and what that does psychologically to the audience, to the listener, that every time you hear this little creeping two-note motive, you know that the shark is coming. You know that it's sneaking up behind you. And if you've ever heard that music while you were in a swimming pool or a lake or an ocean, you get out immediately. It's terrifying. But my favorite part, what I really wanted to talk about, was the scariest moment in the film. You've been watching for an hour and a half, and every time you hear bump, 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 you know the shark's coming, you see the fin in the water. But the scariest moment in the film, he doesn't use the music at all. He's trained your brain to hear that music and expect the shark, but not expect the shark unless you've heard the music. And then Roy Scheider's standing at the side of the boat talking, not looking into the water, and he turns and the shark comes up right then. No music, no warning at all. And that's the moment you scream. And that's the power of music or lack of music. I love it so much.
And that indeed is the process. In fact, John and Steven Spielberg are 85% of the time it's Steven Spielberg, but the first thing they do is a spotting moment they watch the rough cut of the film together, and they discuss music goes here, no music here. I'm sure that changes as it goes on, but perfectly well put, Adam. It's about what happens and again what doesn't happen. That's amazing. And I have a couple of I'm going to tell, if I may, I'm not sure how much time we have, but I'm going to tell the story. I'm probably going to tell it on the stage too, but my best friend and his wife were scuba diving off the coast of Hawaii in 1981 with a native Hawaiian instructor. And they were all sitting around the edge of the boat, like there are 8 of them, and they're about to go backwards for their first dive. And one of them says to the instructor, "Oh, wait, before we go, what happens if we see a shark?" And he says, "Not to worry. Shark comes close, you hear music first." That actually happened. That's how much a part of society John's music is. Yeah.
I agree. You don't have to have seen that movie to know that that's what those 2 notes played over and over again in succession means. You don't have to have heard the screaming strings to know that means somebody's coming at you with a knife in the shower, even if you've never seen Psycho before. I mean, it's just brilliant.
You know something's wrong.
Right.
That's true. And
That's
also
right.
in the Jaws, it's only 3 minutes long, but about halfway through, the winds play this little children's song. Da 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 da, above it, because the kids are playing on the beach, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are in the water, and it's just
you get the whole story of the film just in that 3 minutes, and you get a little fright too. It's really fun.
It's set up indeed.
And then you mentioned Harry Potter. Of course, John Williams scored the first 3 films of the Harry Potter series, which started out truly as children's films. An adaptation of a children's book that's just full of magic and wonder. And as you mentioned, with each film in the series, even after John stopped scoring them, they get darker as the students age and as the stakes become higher in the wizarding world. So do the movies get darker and the scores get darker.
Yeah. So we're playing music from the Sorcerer's Stone, first one, and then from the Chamber of Secrets, and then from The Prisoner of Azkaban, each of the three films. Now, the last one, I mean, the first one is just sets up the ominous nature of the series. And the second one is actually the Chamber of Secrets theme, which is also very, very spooky. But the last one is witches, wands, and wizards. And it, out of the box, is in your face. Take that. And that you can tell that, oh my, they're not just little kids anymore. There's a lot going on in these films. So I know we're both Potterheads, and I hope a lot of folks who'll be there will, and even if they're not, that they'll enjoy this peek into the Harry Potter world of suspense.
Yeah, I'm so excited that the Chamber of Secrets and Prisoner of Azkaban are included, because we hear the main theme all the time. It's become as iconic as some of the other ones we've talked about today. Chamber of Secrets, despite being the title of the film, that particular theme really only appears in the film a little bit until the end credits, and then it gets played full out. So while I hope it's recognizable, I also hope it's a nice surprise for the audience to hear one that A, they're not maybe as familiar with, and B, that it's super spooky and Halloween appropriate. I mean, it's about a dungeon with a giant snake in it, so it doesn't get much spookier than that.
And
then
narrow tunnels and being chased by the snake. Oh my God. Yeah.
And then Azkaban is another one that, to me, I just think it's one of his greatest scores in recent history. That film came out when I was near the end of high school and deciding whether to continue with music or not beyond high school. And as soon as I saw that film, I went straight to the store and bought the CD. This was before music was digital.
I in my life, I never thought we would not have CDs. I thought once they came on, I said, this is forever. Nope. But you're right. It's a amazing score. And in this music, the orchestra is fully challenged. It really is, and throughout. And the program before our encore, which I'm going to say we're going to have, but I'm not going to say what it is. I don't know if you want to go to the last piece, but the last one is one of the great classics that John ever wrote, the Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Yeah.
Beautiful. I agree. I'm so glad you included this on the program.
It's actually in two sections. The first section is basically John going back to his avant-garde compositional self, and it's a lot of sound effects and a lot of ad libitum stuff in the orchestra is picking notes, not exactly exact notes. Make these as fast as you can for this amount of time as you can. Hold this for 5 seconds, then boom, go on to something else. It's a wonderful tour de force. And then you get the first hints of that 5-note theme that he came up with, and then it takes you from there to this radiantly uplifting finish, which, I mean, that's an appropriate finish for a concert. We all want to leave that way, uplifted.
Oh, and we absolutely will. You've put together such a great program, a first half of just iconic spooky themes, a second half of great Halloween appropriate John Williams themes, as you mentioned, an encore, some tricks and treats in there, because what is Halloween without tricks and treats? But I can't encourage everybody enough. If you like film music, if you want to hear the orchestra being not just challenged, but rising to the challenge and sounding the best they ever have, these film music scores are so so wonderful and such a great showcase of what the Louisville Orchestra can do, then I absolutely encourage everybody to come and hear this Fright Night concert Saturday, October 21st, 7:30, Kentucky Center for the Arts, Whitney Hall, with the one and only Bob Bernhardt. I mean, it doesn't get any better than having Bob on the podium for a Halloween concert.
Yeah, well, I'm the lucky one, Adam. I'll tell you, it's I am thrilled to be. This is my first time back for the season, and I just can't wait to get started again. And I'm so grateful to you and to our colleagues on the staff and to our wonderful colleagues in the orchestra for just making all of this possible. And of course, sponsors, donors, our audience.
I think it's going to be a fun time for everyone. I think not only is the orchestra going to sound great, but they're going to have fun playing this music with you. So thanks so much for your time today. And hey, happy spooky season.
Yeah, thanks.